Good evening. Welcome to Africa's Vision Network. Africa's Vision Network showcase programs on African culture awareness, education, economic empowerment, religion, spirituality, and many other issues related to the African American world. I am Omar Ashaka, your guest host. Our program this evening will focus on the dreams and aspirations of Naim Powell, a native Washingtonian. She attended Duke Ellington School of the Arts, located in Northwest Washington, D.C. Her education includes a Bachelor's of Art degree in filmmaking and theater from St. Augustine University in Raleigh, North Carolina. She is creative and a versatile artist. We're going to be talking about what it was like growing up with drugs in the home and some of the issues that she faced, along with her accomplishments, a documentary, and future plans for her life. Welcome to Africa's Vision Network.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Is there anything else that you would like to add to the introduction, even if it's the pronunciation of your name?
Yeah. You did say it was Naima.
Naima.
Yeah,
Okay.
Naima, and you basically said it right. I'm on this journey as an artist,
Okay.
and discovering myself in this field, in this world. So it's quite an interesting experience.
Well, Naima, this is going to be a very interesting program for our audience to talk about what it was like as a young person with drugs in your home. Set the stage for our audience as to what that experience was like. For example, were you with both mom and dad? And if so, were both using drugs? Just kind of set the stage for us in terms of what it was like.
Okay, I understand. Well, growing up, I moved around a lot, and I lived with both parents. So in my home, my father was considered more of the aggressor due to his behavior with drugs and his activities beyond that in the streets. And my mom, she was, the warmer type individual, but she was a little fragile due to the challenges that she had with my father and their relationship.
Okay.
So total together, it was 6 of us that grew up in this home. I was one of the middle children. So that already has a connotation to it, because the middle child doesn't really get as much attention. Mm-hmm. So it was a lot of challenges because my father's drugs, we would have like random people in our home that I did not know. There used to be drug addicts. We had to move a lot due to the fact because there was a lot of danger. And
I'm sorry, when you say move a lot,
mm-hmm.
the whole family?
The whole family. So we moved, I'm originally from Southeast DC. So by the time I was like 8 years old, we moved at least 5 to 7 times. We just moved a lot. We moved to DC, Maryland, North Carolina. I was in North Carolina. I lived down there for 5 years. Okay. Due to the fact of the problems that we were having.
Now, Naima, if you don't mind, when you talk about because of the danger, mm-hmm. so that some of our audience, again, can get the big picture as to what life is like living in a home of drugs, what do you mean when you say because of the danger? Can you
I mean,
share
when
that?
you are dealing with someone who does a little bit of both, the drug addiction and an addict, the drug addiction and the seller, you have the competition, as far as the drug dealers, the reputation, and so far as with that, you have to deal with people who might have been like somewhat threatening to this person because of their behavior in the streets. And then you have the other drug addicts who might see something that you have and they want it.
Okay.
And yeah.
And again, we want to really get this picture as clear as possible as to what it's like living in a home with drugs. As a child, do you remember any specific experiences that you had that was kind of dangerous that you can share?
I do remember this particular experience that I had when I was a child that's actually in my movie. I spoke about it. And this experience was one night I was in the bed sleeping like normally, and I hear a big banging sound on the door. So I'm immediately awoken by this sound. And through the crib of my eyes, I saw my father come into the door with his face all bruised and bloody, and he was beaten. And in this experience, because of who my father was in my home, to me, he was the aggressor and really strong and intimidating. To see him in this vulnerable place really frightened me when it came to the possibilities of this lifestyle. Okay. So what ended up happening is that because of his lifestyle, he ended up getting attacked by some rivals. Okay. And they were sent to do more than just attack him, but they only attacked him. And yeah.
Okay. Were any members of the family in danger of being threatened, or were they strictly after your dad?
Primarily after my dad.
Okay.
You know, because he's had situations when people came in, you know, dealing with like the drug dealers and everything like that. People broken into our home before due to his behavior. Okay. And his activities, but the danger really was towards him because they didn't attack anybody else but him. Okay.
Naima, do you remember what kind of drugs?
It was crack.
Okay.
Crack and cocaine and everything like that.
And you know, Naima, as I was preparing for the show, I wrote down a definition of crack cocaine, and it says crack cocaine is the free-base form of cocaine that can be smoked. It may also be termed rock, work hard, iron, cavi, based, or just crack. And it was kind of amazing. Some of these names I never heard of. Mm-hmm. It says the Manual of Adolescent Substance Abuse Treatment called it the most addictive form of cocaine. What was it like living in a setting like you grew up in and going to school? I mean, were you able to separate what you were experiencing at home and learn in school, or?
For me, growing up, life was only about survival. School wasn't really important. I knew a lot of people who had similar experiences. So it was like something normal for us to deal with parents who were addicted to drugs. So the way that I view life is part of my challenge today is that I see it as just surviving. I never really looked at my education because to me education was just an added situation. But I was thinking about how I'm going to live today and how I'm going to live tomorrow.
Again, because of the drug experience that you...
Because of the lifestyle. Because the drugs, when you have a parent who's on drugs, their behavior is not as responsible. Mm-hmm. So you get, they're high, and or you might get left at home to deal with yourself a little bit more. And so it's just, and then you have one parent who's not a drug addict. They have to deal with having all the self-reflections, and to me, my mother was really fragile, so she couldn't really handle the situation. So it toughens you a lot, and the way you view people and adults are completely different due to the fact that you had to learn how to survive and take care of yourself.
So that attitude and that posture that you took as a kid, is that kind of still with you as an adult in terms of how you relate to people? I mean, can you attach to people now?
I'm a lot better than I was when I was a child. Before I was able to, I could have a conversation with you and seemingly we would be developing something, but I would move on. Like if you were there that day and then you were gone tomorrow, it's like I didn't even see you the day before. So it's like, for me, it was just, to me, life was always about surviving. So I thought about what I needed to do to survive in that moment. And so as an adult, I realized the way that I interact with people within my relationships and how these isms are still in me. So I've learned to kind of take a step back so that I can allow my heart to lead me and not my instinct.
And that's interesting because you mentioned these isms, because I was going to ask you, how deep is that pain today that's carried on from your childhood? And another part to that question would be, how did you feel about love as a child? I know you said your mom was a warm person and your dad was a little more aggressive, but did you feel loved in that environment?
For me, I was the middle child, so growing up, I was known as the good child too. I did all that I could do to preserve like the goodness in the home, and so I felt like I had a lot of responsibility, and I was really, from my point of view, isolated because of my position. Because people looked to me for guidance a lot of times, and I didn't really, I didn't really understand my position. Well, I understood that for me in my home, I wanted to be the light and for my mother because it was just a hard time. So I tried to be a good child for that reason alone. So it made it really hard for me to learn who I was as a person. And then I had to really grow into these realizations that maybe I am not that, I am this. And I had to make stands against other people who were saying to me, that's all you are. And I said, no, that's not what I am. I'm more than that. So I had to go through a realization process.
So with your father being aggressive, how did he relate to you as the middle child and as the light within the family? I mean, I'm not sure if you want to discuss it, but were you abused, or did you receive this as assertive, aggressive position from him as the middle child, especially the one who was trying to keep things together and be this light?
He wasn't really that aggressive towards me. It was primarily towards everybody else. I'm his only daughter.
Okay.
So, but what it was is just I had a lack of attention. Then he only saw the things that I did, and he never looked at me, the person. So that made a difference in our relationship. He only saw that. He saw saying he would basically give praise to my honors, like things that I did in school, but we wouldn't have the one-on-ones that really talked about who I was as a person.
I find that intriguing, though. He seemed like he was really involved with crack cocaine, maybe as a user and a dealer, but he still found some time to recognize and honor what you were doing, if I heard you correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he's still, even with all of that was going on, in some of the instances when I was doing well in school, he would recognize it. He had a difficult childhood, so a lot of things that he may have experienced, he didn't really learn how to do certain things the way it should be done, but at the same time, he understood to give me that type of energy, so he did do that.
You said he had a difficult childhood as well. By chance, were drugs in his home as a child?
Well, it was abuse.
Abuse, okay.
Yeah.
I often wondered, when I was reading up on crack cocaine, I know there were some studies done based on what I read, and it appears as though that some of the experts were wrong about crack cocaine, crack babies as they called them, in the sense that they're doing a lot better than maybe they anticipated. Sometimes they say that if the parents use drugs, the children will use drugs. By chance, in your family with your siblings, did that occur? If you can talk about that.
When it comes to that, it's behavior. If you see people acting certain ways and you don't really learn how to process life, then sometimes some people will pick up those habits. That's why it's really important to have a strong leader that comes into your life, because when you're dealing with that, if you don't have the will within yourself to look beyond it, then you're gonna typically fall into that lifestyle. And there are some of my siblings who fell into a lifestyle of being drug dealers and drug abusers and things like that, and going to jail. So yeah, it's definitely possible, but it has a lot more to do with what's given to that person. Like for me, what was my change is when I started to do music, and that was an outlet for me personally, and that saved me from what I could have possibly been doing.
That's interesting, because that is one of the questions I was going to ask you about piano lessons. I know you're going to perform for us with the guitar. Once again, I find that interesting considering the home environment that you were in. Tell our audience, how did you get, you had an appreciation for music, but how did you get the classes and things like that? How did that come about?
Well, I'm going to say this. My father's a musician. So
Okay.
he actually traveled the world with Gil Scott
Okay,
as a bass
interesting.
guitarist. And so that's when he got into a lifestyle. But so he did that. And so music was in my home.
Okay.
So I was used to that aspect beyond the other drug things. And so I was introduced to piano due to the fact that we was at a friend's house one day, and I was just playing on the piano because I thought it was fun.
How old were you at that time?
I was 12.
Well, okay.
And it was like, you know, she has decent fingers, so like dexterity and everything like that in my hands. So my grandmother's best friend was a piano teacher, and so my mother introduced me to her, and they basically, that's how it worked. She gave me lessons.
Okay, interesting. What about the guitar?
The guitar, that's more of a recent thing that I'm doing. Since I was a child, I've always had interest in music, and like I said, my father's a musician, my mother's a singer, so that has always been a part of my life. It's been part of what I say, like some of my saving grace when it comes to my experiences. And so when it came to the guitar, it's just something I always wanted to learn, and it seemed like something fun and easy to pick up. And in recent years, I started learning how to play.
Okay. I'm going to go back. We're going to start talking about your filmmaking vision. But I want to go back because you mentioned something very interesting when you said your father was a musician and he's played for Gil Scott-Heron. Can you tell our audience some of the music about Gil Scott-Heron?
One of the songs that I know for sure is Revolutionary.
Right.
And basically, Gil Scott, you know, he's a very political, conscious type of musician. And a lot of people say he was the originator for this type of spoken word type of artistry. And basically what he did is he talked about a lot of political issues that people were afraid to talk about. And basically show people that they can use their voice and empower each other by speaking the truth.
Okay. And the reason I was asking you that, Naim, is because we had a gentleman on our show, Bobby Parker, who was a blues musician.
Okay.
He died a couple of years ago. But he used to always tell me that everyone always thought musicians did drugs. There sometimes seemed to be this connection with, if you're a musician, somewhere there are drugs. And I was curious as to whether or not, when you were born, your father was a musician at that time?
My father and my mother met through music.
Okay.
My mother used to sing in different bands in D.C., and my father played with Gil Scott.
Okay.
So mother was introduced to my father through her actual brother, who was also a musician. And my mother, during that time of her life, was working on starting a nonprofit. And so her brother told her about him so that they can come and perform at her opening event. And that's actually how they met.
Okay. And again, the reason I was just curious, I mean, I know a few years ago someone mentioned to me about Gil Scott-Heron, how it was sad because, if I'm not mistaken, he had become a drug addict as well. And I was just curious if maybe your father's journey towards drugs had started as part of the band. But moving on from that, you're very creative, and now I see where the music part come from.
Mm-hmm.
Your mom was a singer, your father was a musician. Let's talk about filmmaking. You studied it at St. Augustine, and St. Augustine, and so how did you get an interest in filmmaking?
I tell people this story right here. I was in college, and originally I wanted to do theater. I was a performer, so I would do plays. I was known in college for someone who used to be in all the plays. Then one day, I was invited to be a part of a group for someone's, I'm trying to think of it, it's like a senior class. And basically, so I was invited to that, and we actually had an opportunity to shoot all day from 8 o'clock in the morning to like 8 o'clock the next morning. Mm-hmm. We were up shooting a movie. And in that moment, I realized that I really enjoyed the atmosphere and the experience in the process of creating a movie. So I decided that I wanted to be a filmmaker.
Okay. Now, and you've actually produced a film, correct?
Yeah, I've directed a couple of films. Like the film that I'm working, the film that I've directed about my personal experience is called Through the Eyes of the Children, the Crack Epidemic. And and basically the whole goal of it is to create more healing for those kids who experience those things in their life.
Yeah. And I have to ask you, as far as you know, what is because we know that crack cocaine was really big in the 80s and the 90s. What about in 2015, as far as you know?
2015 is a different type of drug. And that's one of the things that people ask me, say, how is this relating to today? I say to people, it's because of that experience that the families were broken. And that created more issues in the child. And as they grew older, it was this systematic type of process that was made, is that I had to be a hustler. I had to be a hustler in order to get money, and education wasn't as valuable. So due to that...
I'm sorry, are you saying people were stereotyping that you had to be a hustler today?
No, no, not stereotyping. I was saying that due to the brokenness that the drugs created in the 80s, mm-hmm. that caused different type of behaviors to be formed. Okay. And so a lot of people that I've known personally ended up being in that lifestyle due to the fact that they felt that that was the way that they should live, due to the fact that was the easiest way and what was accessible to them in their homes. So that it became drug dealers or even drug addicts. And so it's just a cycle that's repeating itself in today's time, because the healing hasn't really happened. And people haven't really dealt with the issues face on. So that's why it keeps repeating itself.
And so this film is contributing to the healing process. That's your objective.
Yeah, the only goal that I have really is just, when I thought of it, I just wanted to release this energy that was in me, and I figured that I'll do that through a film. And I wanted to create more healing for myself. And then I invited some of my friends to be involved, and so they can tell their perspective of their experiences. And to create more healing, to expose the truth of that life, and to validate, to expose the truth, and to really allow people to have an inside view of that experience, and to teach the drug addicts of their behavior.
So, this inside view, I mean, that's an interesting point there. What do you hope for people to learn with an inside view?
I hope for people because I don't like for people to pity anybody. Don't pity no one who has gone through these experiences. It's just to recognize their strength, and those people who have gone through those experiences, to recognize their own strength. Because sometimes as you go through life, you just keep it moving. You don't even understand some of the things that you may have overcome and how powerful that may be. So my goal is to recognize that, and to strengthen those spirits, so that those kids who are going through these things right now can potentially understand that there is a better tomorrow. And if they're strong enough, so am I.
Well, Naima, I'm just sitting here. I'm kind of floating with what you're saying, because it makes sense. Because not only does this really, in my opinion, relate to folks who may have experienced drugs, crack cocaine, or whatever, but it sounds like it's a formula for a whole lot of things where people may be having a tough time with knowing who they are and having self-confidence. So this is truly fascinating in terms of what you're doing. Your film, have you been marketing the film? Or, I mean, is it on, where can the audience see it?
So basically right now, the film, I'm in a process of promotion. So I recently did an event not long ago in which I spoke and I talked about the issues, and when this event was in front of people who work in social justice. So so it's just an opportunity to expose this to them so that they can take that into their environments and find a way to deal with these issues and people who might have those type of experiences and how to communicate with them. And then I'm doing another event pretty soon in which I'm going to be talking to former drug addicts, and I'm going to be speaking on the issues, and I'm going to show them a movie and talk about the experience. And then the next goal is to put it on television, and I'm promoting it, and then I'm creating I've created like a Facebook page. I'm trying to get into this Facebook and stuff. That's what I call it. Like when you have to promote stuff. Mm-hmm. My friends told me about it. So I'm doing that. I created like a Facebook page called Through the Eyes of the Children. And the whole goal is just to update people of what I'm doing. I'm going to put it in the film festival, and I plan on making like a series of it.
Which film festival?
I haven't decided yet. I have to do some more research. Right now I'm just in the process of, because I have this event coming up in like 2 weeks, so I'm preparing for that.
Okay. I had a chance to look at that, Through the Eyes of, what was the title?
Through the Eyes of the Children, the
children.
Crack Epidemic.
Yeah. Where did you find them, those individuals?
They're my friends. So these people I grew up with. So one of them actually is an interesting situation while we was filming it, my interview, because I'm in the movie too. Okay. My buddy who was the camera person decided that he was willing to tell his story. So we switched roles. I decided that I'll be on the camera and he'll be the person being interviewed. So I had an additional interview due to the fact that when he was listening to me tell my story, he was inspired to tell his own. And his story was a really powerful addition to the film.
So how did that make you feel? Initially someone is running the camera and they want to switch roles. How did that make you feel?
To me, it made me feel like it was working, the whole goal, which is to create more healing. And I feel like a lot of times when you have that history and that past, you hide it and you're ashamed of it. But in reality, you can't hide your truths. So you have to learn how to live with it. And part of the goal is to embrace your history and your past, and not make it who you are, but learn that's a part of me. And but I am, I'm not just that.
Your healing process that you're working with, is God part of the equation? Religion?
God is always a part of my equation.
Okay.
God was a part of my equation when I was a child. I tell people I used to praise the Lord, and I didn't even understand what I was doing. But whenever we was going through a situation, I would sing to the top of my lungs, praising God and asking God what's going on. And for some reason, I didn't understand it, but God has always been a force in my life, and that's why I've been able to do what I've been able to do.
And it's interesting, as a child, you were praising God. Were you introduced to God by your mother or father? Or
my mother used to sing to me when I was a little girl. My favorite song is Jesus Loves Me, and she used to sing it to me at night when I was little.
Do you recall if your dad was there when she was singing to you?
I don't remember him being there, no. No.
Okay. Wow, this is, I'm truly touched, Naima, and Do you feel like God has called you to take the lead on this healing process with this unique issue that has been in America?
Well, it came to me as a vision. I haven't really thought about it that in depth. For me, it was just really processing the information that I was already receiving, and then wherever it goes from there is where it goes. But my main thing is to create more healing, and to create and allow opportunities to have to people who have experienced that.
So you mentioned some people that are involved in social justice and some of these others. How do they normally receive your presentation and your vision?
A lot of times people, they feel inspired, and they say, the fact that you're willing to expose yourself like that is an amazing thing. Some people like, I have a story too that I'm trying to learn how to deal with, and that's something that I want to pursue. So it's inspiring people and motivating them to do more within their own lives. So if that's the case, then that's what's good. And I want to say something about my buddy. His name is Mark, and he has this group called the Social Innovation. And the main focus of this group is to deal with issues in the community, and have these type of meetings in which we talk to people who are in the social justice realm, and come up with ideas of how to deal with this actively, proactively. And he's in the process of developing that. That came to him as a vision. The Social Innovation Lab is what he calls it. And I was like, okay. And then it was an interesting connection because we met. I said to him, I'm doing this movie. He said, we're going to do an event with you on this movie before the movie was even done.
Interesting, social innovation. There are a couple quick questions I want to ask you, but I want to ask you about this social innovation so I won't forget it. Because what comes to mind, Naima, is excuse me, the very unfortunate police shooting in North Charleston, South Carolina, of Mr. Walter Scott, where he was shot in the back, as many people know, 4 to 5 times. I think the police officer may have shot, or 8 times. As a filmmaker, as someone who's gone through your journey with the drug experience, speaking with Tim, Social Innovation, has that been a discussion point, or even something that's gone through your mind? I know that you've been working on the healing for maybe the crack cocaine experience, but what about the other pieces in the community where healing is needed? I was just curious.
From my personal reflection is, honestly, growing up, the way that a lot of times that we view certain people and grew up in my area, the police is not something uncommon, that type of behavior. So it's not unpredictable that something like that would happen, because where I lived, the police would harass the drug dealers and smoke their weed, So it was like, it's not something that's shocking to me that this happened.
Now that's an interesting point. You said that the police officers would come in the community, did you say arrest people and then smoke their weed?
Yeah, harass them.
As a child, this is something you saw as a young person?
This is what I experienced, yeah.
How did you feel then about the police officer who typically is there to protect and serve and have integrity? What were your thoughts as a young person when you would see those dynamics, if you will?
Well, my thoughts personally is that there are those who only out there to get what they want. So, and that comes in any state or form, whoever, any position of authority. So you just gotta protect yours and have your own, and make sure you're doing what you're supposed to do, because you never know what you run into.
Interesting. Having a vision to be an African American filmmaker, do you have any favorite African American filmmakers that have inspired you?
I would say, typical one that people would say is Spike Lee. I can say I watched a lot of his stuff. And honestly, I'm not really good with names. So films that might have inspired me is like The Color Purple. I would say the films that like what's love got to do with it. Those type of films inspire me because it's real stories, and it goes to the heart of the matter, and that's the type of stuff that I like to watch. Because when I think about Color Purple, you see this woman who's had a rough life, obviously, and she's going through this journey of discovery in each realm of her life. And those are the type of stories that I enjoy when I'm watching films. Is someone who's going through different things and they're learning and they're being exposed, and that's really what life is about.
Well, it's interesting. I did a little research. I was curious as to who the first female African-American filmmaker was. And I was surprised. I saw something, they talked about they were kind of giving that title to three different people. But as early as 1915, which I was kind of surprised to see a date like that, there's a lady by the name of Drusilla Dungy Houston. Supposedly she did a piece called Spirit of the South, The Maddening Mob. But they went on to say the film was never made and she never actually directed a film to anyone's knowledge. But when I Googled first American, female African-American, her name came up. Then there was another name that came up, Zora Neale Hurston. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we know about her being a writer, at least I did, but yeah. I didn't know about the black films. And she had a piece called, you might want to check this out, because one of her pieces was talking about the black Southern rural life, and it was called Such as Children's Games. And the other one was called Logging. And we're talking about the years 1928 and 1929. But I was kind of surprised that, and then there was another young lady, looked like Eloise King Gist. She had a film produced back in 1922, according to the Kansas City newspaper. But I was truly surprised that as early as 1915, there were some African American females.
Yeah, that is surprising.
Yeah, who were doing it. You know, what I'm struck by, Naima, as I sit here and talk with you, the confidence that you have and the peace that you appear to have and the smoothness of your presentation, like you're so in tune and in touch with who you are and what your mission is. So I was curious, other than God, what has been your inspiration? What has put you on this solid rock of knowing who you are and going after you feel you must go after?
Well, other than God, which is the main factor, it's I've always had a will, and I've always been able to, as a child, see things for what it was. So that understanding allowed me to, when I experience people, interpret things. And so I used to, like I said, I was the good child. And some people that I knew would do the other type of behaviors, but because I was able to see the outcome, I would not do that. And a lot of that has to do with my ability to understand what's going on in that moment and to understand the experience. Because I've always been like because I do theater too, so I've always been somewhat of a people watcher. And then I'll pay attention to the way that people look at you, respond to you, and even talk to you in type of tones. So because of that, I've been able to learn, my own behavior. And I realized I would do like personal reflections and meditations as a child. And sometimes my friends didn't understand it. I would just leave them and I would meditate on my day, and I would say, well, I responded this way to that person, I responded that way, and I would just have these personal reflections. It was just something of a behavior that I've always had.
Now, Naima, do you think if you had not had drugs in your home and that drug experience, that you would be who you are today?
I think if I had not had that, I probably wouldn't be the same type of person, but I definitely would have been someone in this form. Like the way that I see things wouldn't be the same, but as far as my abilities of what I'm doing, I feel like I still would have had that going on.
Let me ask you this quick question too. There was one another question. I'm going to go back to the crack cocaine. One of the other questions I had here is, in your opinion, what has happened to most of the crack cocaine users? I mean, if you can address that.
To me, they're trying to get their lives back. Some of them have been able to reestablish themselves, get off the drugs, create businesses and programs dealing with these issues. Then you have those who are still living in that lifestyle, having a hard time to refocus themselves and still making their responsible decisions. And then those who are just trying to figure out how to move and move forward in their life, and how to reconnect with family and everything like that, because they've lost so much due to their addictions.
Now, here's another question I had. There are those who think that crack cocaine is just predominantly in African American communities. And of course, we're in the Washington, D.C. area. I thought recently I've been following stories where it's out in Northern Virginia areas. But what are your thoughts on that in terms of?
Oh, it's definitely all over the place. It's not just in African American areas. In my film, I only focused on the African American experience due to the fact that my time constraints, and so I had to think as not only the director but also the producer. So I had to think about those other elements that would be involved if I were to expand the idea. So I wanted to focus on the African American experience in the film due to that. But it's definitely all over the place. Cocaine, crack, it's not just the African American people who have these type of experiences. I'm only just focusing on African American experience due to the fact that, in my eyes, what I've been a witness of is that a lot of the media outlets that showcase this, they make the African Americans look like monsters compared to those other people who may have experienced the same thing. They just bring it, they make it really a negative.
Okay.
Image.
Well,
yeah.
Naima, time is running out, and we're looking forward to your performance as well. But real quick, we have about 2 minutes. When you perform, is it also is there a relationship with, again, your experience as a child? Is part of the healing process displayed in your performances? If we just have a quick couple minutes.
Yeah, when I perform, all of that's a part of my healing. I mean, it's like I said, that was my freedom as a child. I would sing and praise. So whenever I do that, that's what I'm doing.
Okay. Well, Naima, I'm just, I feel like I'm floating because this has been truly a blessing to hear your story. And we're going to let you get ready. We want our audience to stay with us, and we're going to let you perform. And we want to say God bless you, God bless your family, and we look forward to you coming back, and we want to wish you the very best in all your endeavors. And we appreciate you taking the lead and following God's guideline and God's request of you to take on this mission. So God bless you, and thank you very much. And if our audience will stay with us, we're going to come back with a very beautiful performance by Naim Powell. And again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Through the Eyes of the Children is a documentary based on the experiences the kids had when their parents was on drugs. I'm going to talk about the troubles, some of what it looked like for the kids, and the changes. The name of this song is called The Voice. The children. These are the voices of the children. These are the voices of the children. And basically, these experiences have made life really difficult for me.
Uh-oh.